All right, good morning again, students. Just going to continue with that presentation here. Sorry, one second. All right, there we go. So now we're looking at the work of Maya Lin, another American artist. Here you can see where she's actually manipulated the earth in order to create these kind of undulating waveforms in a field. So it feels like the land is flowing much like a fluid, like water or something like that, to create these waves. Okay, moving on. Mehmet Ali Aysel. Sorry, I'm not super familiar with that artist, so struggling with the name. This is really a pop art piece. You can see where they've created this massive clothespin, just a familiar kind of popular object. But notice how they've integrated that into the land. So they've actually used it to kind of pinch up on the land. So kind of a morph between like more of a traditional sculpture and then this land art style. Okay, now we're looking at a Alberta-based artist, Peter von Tiesenhausen. And this work actually exists out at the Leighton Arts Center, just south of Calgary. What the artist has done here is he's planted all of these pine boughs into the land to create kind of a grid pattern. And then those are just gonna decay and become part of the land. So the idea with this sculpture is that it'll slowly degrade and fall apart and then actually rot and become this part of the landscape as natural materials do. It's kind of an interesting local example. Peter von Tiesenhausen also kind of famously would, on his own land, would carve these eyes into his trees. And he famously got into a dispute with a pipeline company that was cutting down trees on his property and was able to take them to court and prove that this was actually his artwork that had been destroyed by this company, and was able to successfully win that fight. So kind of interesting example there. All right, moving on, we're going to look at Christo and Jean-Claude. Not exactly land artists, but certainly working outside of the gallery space and certainly in a very close relationship with the land in a lot of their works. Christo and Jean-Claude became quite successful with this concept of wrapping things. So here they've wrapped this whole coastline in Australia. And one of the things I really like about this artist couple is they will fundraise for their own projects. So what they actually do is create illustrations, technical kind of drafting images of the projects, and they sell those in order to fund the projects. Now, why this is interesting is because it gives them complete control. They're not asking permission, through some grant organization or some other, company that might actually be able to influence the artwork. They do all the fundraising themselves and then get permissions to make these artworks. So quite a striking feat to have that kind of control over this public work. Here's an example of where they've wrapped the whole bridge in France. And then an example in North America, this running fence where they've created this this huge fence line out of, again, out of fabric. Okay, and that's all I'm going to show you for today. So just a couple of takeaways. So you can pretty much make use any materials you want. I would say don't carve into trees like Peter von Tiesenhausen did, unless it was an actual, like a piece of a dead tree that you found, and then in which case that would be okay. But I don't want you to disturb any living material. Think about manipulating the sand like Maya Lin manipulated the dirt. I mean, you could just go and make patterns or make objects using sand or mud or other materials. So it's really open to that kind of play. Stacking and playing with rocks, if you're thinking of the geoglyphs and that type of thing. All right, I think that's all I have for you. Happy land art this week.